guys, welcome back. Today is our last lesson, and I've had a great time being with you guys this week. I really have. I really do wish I could have seen you in person, but we're going to make the best of this situation. And tonight we're going to talk about being courageous. Some have suggested that instead of courage being the absence of fear, it is actually the ability to master fear. Even though this may be one definition, there are other elements involved in biblical courage, like faith and trust in God. In Deuteronomy 31:6, Moses, at 120 years, addressed the children of Israel concerning their future and said to them, "Be strong and of good courage, fear not, nor be afraid." The reason for them to be courageous was that the Lord would go with them. Moses spoke from the experience because he had trusted God through the journey from Egypt and the experienced God's faithfulness. God gave the same message to Joshua in Joshua 1:9. He had stood side by side with Moses and also took comfort in having experienced God's protection. Courage is an indicator of a strong character. Anyone, though, who says being courageous is easy is wrong. Ridicule and criticism were often directed at one who stands for what he believes in. There's no promise that courage will always result in a positive response. When a person stands for what he believes is right, it will make an impression on someone regardless of whether or not the situation changes. With the understanding that being courageous is vital to standing with Christ against evil and danger, one should consider some ways to develop courage. One way is to be willing to step out of one's comfort zone. This step does not have to be a big one, like the one Abraham made when he left his homeland to go to a place that God showed him. It could be as simple as being willing to introduce someone to Christ, like Philip, who found Nathanael and saith unto him, "We have found him, and of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth." Being courageous can begin with one step outside of your comfort zone. Another way to be courageous is to have a plan. When a person is serious about having a plan, it usually means he desires to be courageous. Now, Paul believed in having plans. He said to the church at Philippi, "I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus." Having specific plans in life will enable a person to have the courage to live a life above the average. To be a courageous person, you will have a plan, and he will work with that plan. In the Jewish Talmud, a statement reads, Who is a wise man? One who sees the outcome of his actions before he takes action. In other words, a smart person has the wisdom to formulate a plan for his life, and the vision to consider the consequences of his plan, and the determination to set out to work it. In the Old Testament, Ezra prepared his heart to seek the law of the Lord and to do it. Ezra had a monumental plan to restore worship in the newly built temple in Jerusalem. It would be a task filled with disappointments and even dangers. Yet he courageously accepted the challenges and made his plan to seek God's will and do it. A person who desires to be courageous will make a plan, and they'll do everything possible to achieve those plans. Now, dwelling on the past is often a deterrent to courage, while looking to the future is an encouragement. Paul said that he determined to forget those things in the past and reach for the things before him. Paul chose to be courageous, and he demonstrated courage and encouraged it in others. Now, when one thinks of courageous individuals in the Bible, there's one person that quickly comes to my mind, and that person is Queen Esther. Oh, Esther was an exiled orphan who became a queen. Now, no modern movie could have a more suspenseful story, boast better supporting characters, or have a more surprise ending. Through a series of unexpected events, a plot to destroy the Jews was revealed to Esther. And it seemed that, humanly speaking, Esther was the only person in a position to save them. There was, however, a problem. The king had to be made aware of the deadly plot. But access to the king came at a risk. Anyone, even a wife, who approached the king without being summoned or asked for could receive a death sentence. No trial, no exception. If he said he wasn't holding out his staff, he wasn't receiving her, she was going to be killed instantly. Yet, Esther's cousin informed her that appealing to the king was necessary if the Jews were to be spared. Esther became convinced of the life-threatening part she had to play in this unsettling drama. After considering the consequences for both herself and for her people, if she took no action, she made the decision to risk her life by approaching the king. And she made the courageous statement, "If I perish, I perish." Not only should Esther's courage be commended, it can and should be replicated by everyone of whom it can be said he is being courageous. Now, the biblical account of Esther involves 4 characters. You've got Esther, you've got Mordecai, you've got the king, and you have Haman. After banishing his former queen for refusing to obey him, the king chose a beautiful Esther to replace her, not knowing she was a Jew. Esther was not chosen as the king's new queen. The Bible states this. She obtained grace and favor in his sight. Now, chapter 3 records that the king promoted Haman to be his chief counsel, to whom the people were expected to pay homage. They did all this, that is, except for Mordecai. This caused Haman to hate Mordecai so much that he devised a plan to kill him and destroy all the Jews in the land. Haman's promotion gave him the opportunity to approach the king with his plan, which was so convincing that the king just readily issued, "Sure, go ahead and do it." So Mordecai, Esther's cousin, who raised her as his own daughter, learned of this plan and relayed it to the queen, explaining to her that at this moment, she alone had the opportunity and the ability to change the king's mind and prevent a massacre. Now, such a suggestion surely meant Esther's death, because the law stated it was forbidden for anyone to come to the king's presence without being summoned. The punishment was death, and Esther reminded Mordecai of this law, and she hadn't been summoned to the king for a month. Mordecai responded by saying, "Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house, more than all the Jews, but if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time." Esther fasted for 3 days and nights, and with her life on the line, she uttered the words, "If I perish, I perish." And bravely she presented herself to the king. Her courage was rewarded when the king responded by, he held out his golden scepter to her. Her act of boldness changed the course of history for a nation in danger of perishing. And over the next few days, Esther revealed her heritage to the king and was not only able to expose Haman for who he was, but also able to prevent a massacre of her people, the Jews. Esther's willingness to risk her life saved her people in all the 120 provinces of the land and put an end to the wicked Haman. Now, every society has its heroes. Individuals who risk their lives to protect the lives of others. While today's society seems to be producing fewer heroes than in the past, courageous individuals still exist. An example is Captain Sully. So many of you have seen the movie, who in 2009 safely ditched his disabled U.S. airway plane in the Hudson River, and as a result, he saved the lives of all 155 passengers on board. Now, those who survived the crash landing, along with those who watched the TV show, the events, and all the news, they testify that Sully's actions were nothing short of courageous, even heroic, while he was merely doing what all airline pilots are trained to do, and most likely would have tried to do. Now, you may never be put in a situation like Sully, but that doesn't mean that you can't be courageous and stand for whatever situations you are put into. So think about some different situations that you might be put into where you will need courage. And if you want to, share those with us. Courage is required in different situations and in a variety of occupations. So there's a lot of different things you could do where you're going to have to be courageous. But right now, pause the video and let's get your books done and your activity sheets so we can go over those answers. Okay, we have the Young Teen book first. And the first thing you're going to do is define courage. What does courage mean to you? Well, the dictionary definition of courage is a quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, and so forth without fear. The next one, place a check mark beside the ways you can show courage. It would be 1, 4, and 5. Do the right thing, tell the truth regardless of the consequences, and face your fears regardless of what they are, and work to overcome them. And name 4 people who you believe have shown courage, at least 2 of them from the Bible. So those are kind of just personal people that you think are courageous. And the courageous versus the foolish, number 1 is C, number 2 is F, 3 is C, 4 is C, and 5 is F. And then you have a personal challenge. Now this one is on you to answer. So let's fill in the blanks. Psalms 27:1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, and be not afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, He it is that doth go with thee. He shall not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In Psalms 27:14, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and He shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. And these are just personal things about how you feel about your faith and your commitment to God. And I would love for you guys to design a bumper sticker. I really encourage you to design this bumper sticker and send it to me, so we might really want to make a bumper sticker. We might just want to start passing those out. So design a bumper sticker and let's see what you got. So how did they do it? For demonstrating courage, Abraham left his home not knowing. Moses' mother hid Moses for 3 months, and Moses chose to serve God rather than being the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Well, that's some courage right there, isn't it? So let's move on to the older teens book. Young teens, you're free to go. Please join us at church if you don't already have a home church. If you do have a home church, be faithful and be bold and serve God. Okay, for the teen book, the paths of truth. The wisdom to receive doth the reality of death. It is a matter of time. It is a manner for all. And for the Christian, it is the master of none. The depth of decision. The word to regard. You may be God's person for the problem, and you may be God's tool for the timing, the will to resolve. You guys have some personal questions here. I'm always happy if you want to share those with us. If you just want to keep those to yourself, that's okay too. So our tools for the morrow: have I not commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest. And that's Joshua 1:9. And in the context of the verse, whom was the Lord speaking with? He's talking to Joshua. And according to the message from the Lord, why would Joshua not have any hesitation or fear? Well, he had the Lord's presence and promise. When God instructs us, He also provides the power to do whatever He instructs us to do. And what should the Lord's presence and the Lord's promise do for us during critical times? What should remove any doubt or hesitation that we may have about what He's asking us to do? So I really hope you remember everything we've studied this week. Like I said, please contact me if you have any questions. Make sure you get some mementos on the way out. And I have had a great week and cannot wait to meet some of you in person. All of you if I can. But y'all have a wonderful week, and thank you for joining us for our first virtual Vacation Bible School.